respected Swamiji, other dignitaries, dear brothers and sisters. And I think so many of us are talking among themselves. If you are going to talk amongst yourself, I need not have to talk to you. I have been invited to share my thoughts. If anyone is not interested in listening to those thoughts, please go outside so that those who are interested in listening may listen. I am not a platform speaker. I have a message to give. If anyone is not interested in the message, please walk out. The idea is whole world is discussing about it. Environment, ecology. Now it is all reduced to climate, and it is further reduced to global warming, and it is further reduced to mathematical calculation. This shift has taken place in the last 20-25 years. This issue is regarded as the most critical issue in the world. So, about which we need to know some fundamental facts. Facts are very sacrosanct. Unless we know the facts and know the truth behind the facts. Facts we see, and we take the facts for granted. For example, take apples are falling, and everyone took it for granted apples will definitely fall. They cannot go up. Obviously, the apples will fall. This was the assumption of the whole world, generations after generations for thousands of years. But one man questioned, why is the apple falling? Gentlemen, if you are not interested in listening, please leave the hall. If you are not going to stop talking amongst yourself, I will stop talking. Apples were falling. Newton questioned why the apples were falling, and then the entire science evolved around that. So many facts do happen. And when I related Newton to science, I related my mother to environment. I am from a village. In the village, there is so much of water. In fact, in my village, in the winter, if we drill through our hand, in 2 feet, 3 feet, we used to get water. So there used to be so much of water around. My mother always used to say, don't waste water, don't waste water, don't waste water. The question in my mind at that time was, when there is so much water, why does she say we should not waste water? This is an obvious fact behind which a huge environmental science was being handed from generation to us, which we have completely discarded. With the result, in my own village, in the winter, today we don't get water at 30 feet, 40 feet at the winter time. Because we ignored the obvious fact that we should not waste water. So I will take you to some obvious facts, which are very well known, undisputed. Even you would have come across these facts, but you never connected the facts to our life. You know what is the world? The entire world area, if you divide into land and sea, 71% is sea, 29% is land. Of the 29%, one half is habitable land. And of the one half is agricultural land. So if you look at what is the agricultural land, it comes to approximately 10.5% of the total land area. And of that, 70%, 8% is used for rearing animals. Only 2.5% is used for producing cereals. In the entire world, only 2.5% is used for producing cereals. And you know what is the calorie value of cereals? 70% of our calorie values is 82% of the calorie values is cereals. And the calorie values of the animal food which we eat is only 18%. 82% from cereals, for which we use only 2.5% of the available agricultural land. And 8% we use for rearing animals. And they produce only 18% of the calorie value. 2.5% of the land produces 82% of the calorie value. Now you come to protein. The protein value of 2.5% of the land which we use for crops is 63%. The 8% of the land which we use for rearing animals is 37%. There also you have a very heavy contribution from cereals, crops. Now you come to India. India is just 2% of the global land area. 2%. Our 2% of the land area, 50% is agricultural land. That's our fortune. Nowhere in the world, 50% of the land area is agricultural. That's the gift by the God to us, because we have the largest plain land in the world. If you travel across from Benares to Rishikesh, you will find only a huge area of plain land. Green, green, green. No other country in the world is endowed with this kind of plain land. So we have large plain land. We use that for agricultural purposes. But 2% of the land area, 18% of world's population. Imagine 2% of the land area and 18% of world's population. And you know what is the animal population India has? 75% of the cattle population of the world lives in India. 307 million is the cattle population in India. And our biodiversity is 60%, 8%. And some of the animals, some of the plants which do not exist anywhere in the world, nearly 33% of the Indian plants are found nowhere in the world. This is the biodiversity of India. 2% of land, 18% of population, 8% of biodiversity. And how is it that India is living with just 1% of the land area, of which 50% is agricultural land, is just 0.5% land area used for agriculture? How are we feeding 18% of the world's population? 1.35 billion today. This is the question we have to ask. Now you all go into, after this session is over or after the day is over, you Google to ourworlddata.com. Ourworlddata.com. That will give you how the food style of different nations is impacting on the environment. If American food habits are adopted by the whole world, because now America has now become in the last 50, 60 years, America is the icon of the world. If American food habits are adopted by the world, we will need 138% of the land area we have today. 138%. That means we will need 40% more land than the agricultural land we have. If Brazil's lifestyle is adopted, we need to style is adopted, we need 62% more land. If France lifestyle is adopted, we need 22% more land. If Italy, 17%, Greece, 14%, Australia, 60% more land area than we have for agricultural land to feed the world. Those lifestyle are environmentally so costly, but they are slowly becoming the lifestyle of the food. Because ultimately, environment is related to consumption or not production. What you consume decides the element of damage to environment. Now come to India. If the Indian food style is adopted by the whole world, we will need only 40% of the land area that is being used for agriculture for the whole world. If Indian food style is adopted by the whole world, we will need only 40% of the land area. Namely, we are using 50% of the land area of the world for agriculture. We will need only 20%. If Chinese food style is adopted, we will need 80% of the land area which is being used for agriculture. If Japanese lifestyle is adopted, we will need 42% of the land area that is being used for agriculture. Why I am saying this is that your food style, what you eat, is the extent of damage that happens to the environment. Now you go to what is our food style. You see, in India also there are non-vegetarians, very large number of them. Nearly about 70% of Indians are non-vegetarians. They also eat meat. They also eat fish. They also eat other kind of animal products. But you know, for us, cereal is the main food. Meat is the sabji. So our meat consumption is one of the lowest in the world. In the year 2000, our meat consumption was 5.2 kilo per capita. It came down to 4.4 in 2009, and it came down to 3.6 in 2020. Meat eating is actually coming down in India. Cereal consumption is going up because more people are becoming environmentally conscious that meat is not a good food. So it is not that you have to give up the meat. You have to eat less meat. This is the consciousness which is coming in India with the result. The meat consumption is one of the lowest in the world, and it is already coming down. You know what is the meat consumption in America? 109 kg per capita. And if you look at OECD countries, 70. World average is 43. That is the damage to environment. It is not just limited to only food style. It is extending to other parts of lifestyle also. Let us take shelter. The average number of persons living in a house in India is 4.9. From 1950, 51, at that time it is 5.1. Today it is 4.9 because of urbanization and all that. The number of people living, average number of people living in a household in India has come down slightly from 5.1 to 4.9. In America, in the year 1960, the number of persons residing in a household was 3.31. It has come down to 2.51 now. That is 0.8% persons reduction per household from 1960 to 2020. Because of this, Americans had to construct 32 million more houses. 32 million more houses because the number of persons residing in a house came down from 3.3 to 2.5. You take India. The number of persons residing in the house today is 4.9. Our parents, our grandparents, even our extended families, all of us are living together. There are problems, there are difficulties, there are adjustment issues. If this 4.9 becomes 3.9, India will be needing 66 million more houses. You know what is the amount of damage to environment by 32 million houses? Cement, steel, air conditioner, car, television, all kinds of equipments which are needed to run a house. This study has been done in European Union. The number of persons from household had reduced from 3.1 to 2.8, and they have calculated the reduction of 0.3% per household in terms of the damage to environment. In India, if 4.9 becomes 2.5, there will be no India. Tremendous contribution is being made by families adjusting and living together. This is our culture. This is our value system. It is not that simply the number of persons residing in the household decides the damage to environment or the contribution or damage to the economy. You know, I am one of the persons who has done extensive cross-civilization study on economics. In the last 30, 40 years, this has been my passion. And if you look at what this 4.9 average per family has done, their fathers, grandfathers, all of us are living together. 3 generations living together in India is a normal thing. As a result of it, you know what is the difference between us and say America, which is regarded as the most powerful economy in the world? Because of that, we take care of our parents, our grandparents, our sisters, brothers, we all educate them. There is enormous amount of sharing that takes place because of our accommodative lifestyle. This is normally looked upon as a normal thing. But you know what is the impact on the economy? What is the impact on the environment? These are all the things which requires a Newtonian outlook. If all Indians decide to live like Americans, not take care of their parents, not take care of their grandparents, not take care of their sisters, not take care of their brothers who are ill, invalid, unemployed. I will quote what is happening in America. In America, the American government said you need not take care of everybody. You pay a tax of 12.5% social security tax. We will take care of your elders, you will take care of your infirm people, unemployed people. So this was going very well. But the tax collections began coming down and the outgo began to increase. From 2009, there is a deficit in what is called the social security account. Today, the social security unprovided for the future generations is estimated at $61 trillion. That is the amount of money America needs today to take care of the people who are elderly, who are infirm, who are unemployed, who are invalid, who are ill. America doesn't have $1. It has to tax more. But in India, this is taken care of by the society, family, culture, value system, respect for parents, elders, teachers. So, food style, accommodation style, social security, are all integrated through our culture. There is a philosophy. There is a philosophy of life. The philosophy of life decides the goal of life. The goal of life decides the lifestyle. Lifestyle decides your habits. Habits decide what you want and don't want. And that decides what you should produce and need not produce. You know, in the year 2016, a statistics was released by environmental groups in England that the unused wardrobe in England alone, unused wardrobe in England alone was 32 billion sterling. Unused. Because you keep on buying, you don't even use it. That is the power of sales. That is the power of marketing. That is the power of branding. You buy things which you don't need. That's what Mahatma Gandhi said. The world has, the nature has provided for everyone's needs. But it doesn't have the capacity to provide for everybody's wants. Greed. So are we getting educated on all this? Are we practicing this in our life? Is there a method of internalizing this? This link between philosophy, goal, lifestyle, habits, wants, needs, production. This is the contribution of India to the world. We have made our lifestyle simple so as to take care of environment. Environment is not a matter of agreement. It's not a matter of regulation. I come from a village. Unless you come from a village, you cannot understand what is environment. You may be an environmental activist, you may be an environmental specialist, you may be an environmental economist, or you may be an environmental sociologist. You cannot understand unless you come from a village where there is a link, a relation, a sacred relation between man and nature. In my village, we can't cut a green tree if there is a pregnant woman in a village. You may be surprised. You cannot cut a tree without taking permission from the tree. We used to have a letter written and hung around the tree. In my own house, it happened. My friends have come here who have seen this. In my house, there was a neem tree, and we had to construct a house for our joint family of 25 people. But we did not cut the tree. We actually built the house on 3 sides around the neem tree because we could not have cut the tree and lived in peace in that house. This is environmental consciousness. This requires to be taught in schools, colleges, media. This cannot be by shouting slogans, carrying placards, fighting in United Nations, in environmental summits. The Scandinavian ecologists, they called it deep ecological consciousness. Man lives because of nature. And there is interconnection between humans and nature, interconnections between nature and animals. I'll give you an example which is current and which was 5,000 years back. You go on Google and get Malshegu Grove in Ghana. Malshegu Grove is a very special feature of Ghana. The Malshegu Grove was being taken care of by the traditional faith people who knew they were living on the groves. They were cutting the very animals which they were worshipping. They were cutting the very plants they were worshipping. But they knew when to cut the animal, which animal to cut, which tree to cut. So they were living with it for 5,000 years. So many of the industrialists went and told them, these are all superstitions. Why are you worshipping these animals? Why are you worshipping these trees? You cut the trees and make money, you will become a big rich man. People began cutting it because they lost faith. They ceased worshipping the tree. They ceased worshipping the animals. They began cutting and enjoying them. Ghana government banned this entire evangelization in that area, business people going in that area to preserve the traditional faith of the people of reverence to nature, and that is how Malshegu groves were saved in Ghana. There is faith that links, not reason. Faith links nature and man. In Mahabharata, in Virata Parva, there is a sloka which says that tigers live only in forests and they cannot live without forests. And forest can be protected only by tigers, and without tigers, forest cannot be protected. When they say tigers, it is not just tigers, it is about wild animals. So this sloka was being recited for 5,000 years. Nobody went into what is the meaning of it, because it is an obvious fact. There was only Newton to find out why this relationship was spoken of. So we did a study. In the year 1900, India had 41% forest coverage and 40,000 tigers. And in 2018, the number of tigers came down to 1,800. And the forest coverage came down to 18%. Why this tiger population crashed? Tigers knew how to escape bow and arrow. They knew, because they were trained in it for thousands of years. But when the Britisher brought the gun, the tiger did not know how to escape. The tiger population crashed, and so your forest coverage also went down. This obvious fact that there is a balance in ecology between forest and wild animals, and there is a sacred link between humans and forest, humans and nature. This has been exemplified by our worshipping the tree, our worshipping the river, our worshipping the mountains. There are 100,000 sacred bushes in India, forests in India. There are 800 sacred mountains in India. Are they fools to say this is sacred? No. They were establishing a relation, an integral relation, an organic relation, a sacred relation between you and them. That is why in 2% of the land area, 18% of the population, 7% of the 8% of the biodiversity, 33% of plants, nowhere in the world, 306 million animal population exists in India because of this philosophy, the lifestyle, the traditions, the values, which have been handed out from generation to generation. This is true of almost the entire Asia. If there is any race, if there is any civilization, if there is any model, if there is any lifestyle which has caused destruction of environment in a big way, it is the Western civilization. It is they who are setting the standards, because we don't talk in our language. We don't talk about our faith. We don't talk about value system. We don't. In the contrary, we talk about their lifestyle. You introduce human rights into the family, there will be no family. Family will be gone. You introduce gender rights into the family, family is finished. Rights and environments can never exist together. Rights destroy human collectives. They destroy human faith. I am a person who fought against the emergency for denying the fundamental rights. And I was underground for 9 months. When I am saying this, if the government denies your rights, you must fight. But not because your family denies, father denies, society denies. Government is an artificial mechanism. If it denies any rights to you, you must fight. But not your father or grandfather, your brother or sister. Human rights has been extended to destroy families, communities, faiths, that has resulted in destruction of environment. It's a very large issue. You have to have a helicopter view. So young people, you must understand the future belongs to you. Our days are over. But are we looking at it this way? Are we looking at environment as a science? We have to look at environment as an issue of philosophy, lifestyle, value system, traditions, relations. So, is nature a subject of enjoyment or object of reverence? These are the philosophic, practical issues which are confronting the world. Now we are getting, because of this globalization, liberalization, and trade, communication, social media, intruding into every house, every community, every country. We are now getting invaded from outside, foreign food habits. We don't know if those food habits come, there is no land available to produce food because their food habits are completely different. But does anyone teach you this? Does your school, college, environmental experts, government, intellectuals, media? Nothing. So it's a very large issue. The West, the corporates, the brand masters, the sales mechanism is not going to allow you to look at the facts. All of you must become like my mother, or Newton, to look behind the meaning for the obvious facts which we are ignoring. Thank you very much.